I hate the new war. I don't care if hate is a strong word. I have a strong hate for it. Now that I've got your attention, I would like to quote my least favorite YouTuber, Cinematic Garbage. Now to be fair, the new war has some of the best gameplay we have seen in years, as well as some of the most beautiful visuals to ever come out of a free product, ever. So how can I say that I hate it then? It's the story, man. Also, let me just mention, this video, it's not for you, it's for me. I have to make this before I explode. In the spirit of fairness, I will go over the stuff I really liked in the quest. Don't worry, it isn't much. The skybox, it's fucking gorgeous, period. Throughout the entire experience, it really sells you on the idea of grandeur and finality. Even if there really isn't much going on when you peel off the paint job, that's not a critique, that's high praise. The section with Carl is pure gameplay bliss. It completely changes the pace of the game we've gotten so used to. I also believed in Carl's character through and through. It gave us a masterful insight into the Grenier like nothing has come close to in the past. The second act, the Drifter section, was incredibly fun as well. The powers works wonders, saving what would otherwise be dull and uninspired gameplay. And just as things start to get samey, we are of course given the Natarok. The bosses were also enjoyable, for the most part, even if they became a battle of nutrition at times, but that is very forgivable. I was genuinely taken aback by the fact that the Nama won and captured the entire system. And yeah, that's it. The characters. Teshin. Let's just get the elephant out of the room, shall we? Teshin got done so dirty. I would even go as far as to say that he got fritzed. The expression originates from Green Lantern's girlfriend being killed and stuffed into the fritz for him to find. The problem with fritzing is that it usually kills a nobody to enlist an emotional response in the loved ones of the victim instead of treating it as the natural end to their journey. DE doesn't even afford Teshin this luxury. Not only is he not an unnamed character, nor does his death invoke a emotional response. We, the Tenno, barely emote when we see our long-term friend, mentor and savior crushed like a tin can in front of our very own eyes. What are we doing? Tenno 1. I don't even know what to say here really. Not only is Tenno 1 completely nonchalant and the fact that Teshin just died in front of them, and no, I won't let it go. After losing the Lotus, they just sits there while Ballas murders them. What? Let's play a game. Would you rather go after the Lotus and try to save her, get up and avenge her / save the entire Origin system, or roll over and die? What a fucking mess. Tenno 2. This is the Tenno you play in Act 3 if you choose Operator. This is not the Operator you've been playing as up until this point because they're dead. Done. End of discussion. This is the Tenno from the point in time where they just became a Tenno. But they have all the memories of Tenno 1, even though that hasn't happened yet in their timeline. And the Drifter seems to do too. I'm so lost. Anyways, they are exactly the same as Tenno 1, except, well, they can be because they're not. And if they are the same, then that's even worse, but I'll get to that. The Lotus. Holy hell, I don't care about whatever in-universe explanation D tries to shove down my throat. It's not working. The way Lotus acts in the final act of the quest, I mean, talk about nonsensical. What a disservice to her character. All she has to do is wait 1 minute while we get the final Argon Crystal. Her storming off like that? Why? Well, actually, I'll tell you why. Because the plot demands it. I have never seen anything this contrived. It would have been less frustrating to me if she had simply shot herself. I'm dead serious. The Drifter. 10 out of 10, for the character at least. I love how the Drifter approaches each problem one at a time without complaint or inexplainable spasms. Lotus. The hardened but not unkind country-risen badass is a stereotype which I love when done right, and the Drifter is done right. Their logic is sound and they are proficient, but you never get the feeling that they are unkillable either. Little Dog / Exalted. They say something at some point. but after playing through the quest and watching it twice, I cannot remember it for the life of me. It cannot have been that important then. I feel the same way about the Exalted, by the way. Annoying sequel bait. Hunhao. How does he get the most character development of all of the characters? That's a serious question, by the way. He gets no screen time, well, barely any, and yet the time he does get is so efficient that I would actually call him a multifaceted character with a proper arc. That's actually insane. Era. I feel like everyone agrees that Era's redemption arc comes out of nowhere and adds literally nothing. It actually deducts from the story instead. I don't really have anything to add. The man in the wall. I love him. The tension rises tenfold whenever he's on screen. Great job. Ballas. Oh, Ballas. Such wasted potential. So far, I have tried to keep it concise and to try avoiding straying too far from the new war itself, but how can you talk about Ballas without talking about the Paracesis, the sentient slayer? For the life of me, I cannot work out why in the 7 fresh hells that he would give us the sentient slayer. If he solely commands the sentience, it kind of feels like some retcon went on behind the scenes, but we will never know. I have many other problems with Ballas, but it has to do with the overarching story. So, the overarching story. Act 1. The Sentience finally launches a full-scale attack on the Origin system, and man does Carl Saxon do a phenomenal job selling the premise of the Sentience insane power. It's not even a battle, it's a slaughter. Reversely, Viso's arc makes the corpus look pathetic. The idea that someone can simply latch the grid is beyond stupid. It is at the same level of the Heart of Deimos, but more on that at the end. I really like Viso going full hero at the end. You can see the horror in his eyes, and you can tell the moment when he decides to take the shot, even if it will undoubtedly lead to his death, and it's done without the character saying anything. But with all the main characters and scenarios which desperately needed more time, I cannot justify this section. Cut it. They delayed the quest for 2 years and still it feels unfinished. The meaningless side characters is afforded an entire arc? Okay. Next, Teshin enters the Mithrix, Ballas is on and disables the Contrixes or something. This section drags on. Unlike Carl and Viso, which offers new pacing and ways of playing the game, Teshin is literally just a melee-only Warframe. The elemental gimmick is not very interesting. There was too many annoyances, not challenges, but just small things which gets in your way because video game. It was my least favorite part of the entire quest, and I would say that it was actively boring. Next, the Tenno, the playable character we followed since the start, enters with the grace of a hippo on ice and does the equivalent of falling over with a stroke and breaking their neck on impact. I was holding back my anger on stream with the desperate hope of it all being a dream. But no, they're actually just dead. They fritzed the main character. I cannot believe this is actually happening. Act 2. As I've already said, the Drifter section is actually bliss in terms of gameplay. The Fetch quest of gather the MacGuffins to make the thing work, it's fine, it works. The Stealth section doesn't overstay its welcome and neither does the bosses. The Natural Rock is great fun, both in and out of the quest. And how is any of this happening? How is the Drifter here? Serious question. How the fuck are they here? What shifted them into this reality and why? How did they find the Lotus from a different timeline in the void? Seriously, say what? Can you just encounter every possible version of every person from every timeline in the void? I'm sorry, but are you having a piss? I have a challenge for you. Read up on Ortis' origin story and then explain how he ends up with the Drifter in this timeline reality. I have no clue. Quick lesson on what not to do when writing a multiverse piece. Don't allow literally anything to happen at any time, because then nothing which does happen matters. If everything which happens can simply be unmade because the writer says so, how am I supposed to take it seriously? I guarantee you that the writers literally had no clue neither. Anyways, the Lotus goes batshit crazy and tries to kill us, which is perfectly fine, that works in the context of the story. But then, when the Drifter gets hit by the whatever beam of the Lotus, 1002 DX Machina reality bullshits in place of the Drifter and blasts Lotus with Void Magic, which returns her to her senses? Whoops, never mind, she's off doing literally the dumbest thing in the world. I'm over talking about Act 2, but I still have to discuss this. How is the Drifter and 1002 in the same timeline? I don't know, and neither does DE. This entire dialogue is basically them admitting that they don't know, and that's really fucking concerning to me. Act 3. I would like to say that Act 3 comes down at least a little bit, but, well, you'll see. The last act is spent chasing after the Lotus, defeating the final Argon, and fighting Ballas at the end. A pretty standard conclusion, not that there's anything wrong with that. God knows this quest, this plotline needed to be dialed back in complexity. Well, you can start by reattaching the button. The main thing which gets me is the Sun Eater nonsense. The Earth is slightly less than 6 to the 24th power kilograms, and the Sun is slightly less than 2 to the 30th power. Now, okay, stay with me. This stuff normally annoys me because scientific accuracy is obviously not the point here, but it's the Sun. If it took Ballas' ship 6 hours to consume the entire Sun, then it would take 10 seconds to do the same to Earth. So why didn't you do that when the 10 was on Earth, you dumbass? Except for Ballas taking the final Argon crystal and still being defeated so easily. There's nothing wrong with the final boss fight. I just can't get into it because my resolve to care about what is going on here has been eroded away. Except for the Drifter, none of the characters' actions lines up with, well, their characters, their aspirations, their dreams, their values. Nothing seems to matter. They just do whatever the plot demands of them. I just don't care about any of them, and so this whole conflict doesn't matter to me. So what if the origin system gets destroyed? I don't care about any of the character who lives in the origin system. Okay, we're finally done with this section, and I need a break before I discuss Eternalism. Eternalism. I think the greatest feat of this dumpster fire is not only immediately invalidating everything which just happened, but retrospectively ruining everything which has ever happened narratively in this game. End of discussion. Endless possible universes and timelines which can freely be interchanged and mingled is simply lazy writing. Change my mind. Imagine if Aled V suddenly in a snap got void powers because some instance of him somewhere made a deal with the man in the wall. You might think that this example is a bit hyperbolic, but that's exactly what happened to the Drifter. No character death which has happened or will happen can carry any weight. What is dead is also alive, and what is alive is also dead, according to Eternalism. I feel like repeating myself. So, Eternalism is lazy writing. If you restrict yourself to one timeline and one universe, you have to live with the consequences of your choices. You make the story. In this case, you don't have to think ahead anymore. It's a coward's choice. I will be the first to admit that pacing is really fucking difficult, alright? As someone who has written a full-length fantasy novel, pacing is really fucking difficult, and I didn't get it right. I've been beating myself up about the horrible pacing problems towards the end of the second act and all of the third. However, the ending of this quest makes me look like the next Tolkien, and I'm not. I'm Medigore at best, so that says a lot. The fact that we are facing level 16 enemies in the endgame quest after 8 years blows my mind and makes the last act feel disconnected and way too easy, and as a result way too fast. The last Argon goes down in 2 hits. It's quite sad actually. The Heart of Deimos. This is peak stupidity. Let's just cover it real quick. This is one symptom of DE having too high stakes in their quests. This is terrible for 2 reasons. One, I don't actually believe that the Heart of Deimos is actually going to stop. That's not how game worlds work. And 2, there is now an array of hilariously exposable weaknesses of the Tenno. Most outrageous is the heart. Ballas even says that you can't kill the devil, but you can send them back to hell. That is just not true. We know that this is simply not true. You can disable the heart of Deimos, and in doing so you would make all Tennos powerless permanently. And even if Ballas don't know where the heart is, well, he still has a planet eater, doesn't he? I could go on and on and on, but I think you get the point. I really hate this quest, but mainly I hate the impact it has on the overall universe and every story going forward, and I guess kind of in the way it ruins the stories we've already had. It's honestly sad. Down the drain it goes.